And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome in to your LSU Football Fix, a special Wednesday edition. As y'all all know, usually it's Mike and Buddy Wednesday night. Mike's out really sick. Zack Nagy is also out sick. So for today's colossal news day, I'm what you got tonight, guys. I'm going to try my best to do my Mike Scarborough imitation for y'all, but we've got colossal news, plenty to talk about. Now, I wanted to open up with a bit of a sincere reflection on the news of Nick Saban. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. I thought about getting excited and showing the emotions behind it, but I really want to tell you, I've had some time to reflect on it and really think about what it means to LSU. I mean, obviously I can tell you things like he's the greatest coach of all time and nobody's going to question that, right? But we're going to talk about that. Also, colossal news. LSU hires a giant of a defensive line coach, Bo Davis out of Texas. I actually didn't think Brian Kelly could do it, but he did. So massive, massive news day. This has been one of the biggest news weeks at LSU since they hired Brian Kelly. It is so massive that, in fact, I'm not even going to get to mention that LSU, since I did my last show, LSU landed the number one running back in the country and the number one player in the country for next year. It's not even relevant enough to talk about tonight. So I'm going to give y'all my thoughts on Saban retiring. Then we're going to bring in John Eads, one of the new reporters they brought in at WAFB this year. He's done an outstanding job there. He's got great camera presence. I think he'll be a good asset to the show, filling in for Zack Nagy tonight, who's out. So I'm going to lead first with a reflection on the greatest coach, college football coach of all time. He's undeniably the greatest college football coach, but he is arguably the best coach in the history of American sports. Arguably. Phil Jackson has an argument with 11 championships. I tend to say, well, you know what? For all of those championships, you had Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Nick Saban did it 7 times with a rotating door of talent. You know how hard it is to do that at the college level? You can't just put Michael Jordan out there. So guys, if you're excited about Nick Saban retiring and LSU's future, please hit that like button for us tonight. Get this video out there so we scream and shout from the rooftops, figuratively. I'm not screaming tonight. I'm going to give y'all a really calm, cool, collective rundown on my thoughts about Nick Saban retiring. So Nick Saban just concluded a run where he won 206 games and lost 29. 6 national championships and 4 Heisman winners. Guys, this program did not have a Heisman winner before he got there. And, you know, say Alabama's a wonderful program, but that run, Nick Saban made Bama into what it is. Bama did not make Saban. But in terms of impact on LSU's program, no one has had a greater impact on LSU's football program than Nick Saban, both positively and negatively. No other single person. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the future with Nick Saban stepping down. And guys, we have a super chat already. If you want to get your comment up there, guys, just frankly, you're going to have to get your super chats in tonight. There's so much to talk about. Who's more upset, Bama fans or SEC refs who just bought a boat? You know why. Go Tiger. Man, it did seem like Bama got a lot of that love from the refs. Funny comment there, Raging. All right, let's start with the good. No coach had a greater positive impact on LSU's program than Nick Saban, y'all. Let's just get that out of the way. No LSU coach has had a greater impact on LSU's program in a positive way. Nick Saban got the job in 2000, coming out of the darkest decade in program history. In the 90s, LSU had 7 losing seasons and a combined record of 49, 58, and 1. Under Curly Hallman, LSU's program had fallen under utter irrelevance. Despite having a state loaded with talent, most of the top athletes were leaving the state for better programs at the time. Work done out of Catholic High in Baton Rouge. He went to Florida State in 93. Ed Reed out of New Orleans, deuced out, went to Miami. Peyton, Eli Manning, LSU didn't even have a chance for those guys. They both left to SEC schools. Marshall Faulk to San Diego State, where he went on to be the second overall pick. It was just the culture back then. If you were a top-notch athlete, you didn't play for LSU, and that was a problem. It was a problem that Jerry DiNardo saw that there would be a solution to. He came back with the notion of, let's bring back the magic, right? Let's build a fence around the state. Let's keep these talented athletes home. He was able to have some success with it. He reeled Kevin Faulk. Kevin Faulk might have been the single most highest gravity commitment LSU has ever landed, in that it was a commitment that changed the culture in a big way. It started to get people. Now, it wasn't perfect. Ed Reed, a couple years later, did still go to Miami, but the culture was starting to shift with Kevin Faulk's commitment. DiNardo realized what was special about LSU. He just let Lou Tepper drag him down. He had some success, won 10 games, won 9 games, and then just Lou Tepper, just that defense, dragged him out of a job. He started to build defense. Nick Saban finished it. In 2001, LSU landed the best class in school history. Nick Saban took the job and immediately created a buzz and excitement around recruits. In 2001, you signed Michael Clayton, Marcus Spears, Andrew Whitworth, Marquise Hill, Rudy Niswanger. All of these guys out of Louisiana, all are the modern day equivalent of a 5-star player based on what they were back then. They didn't really have recruiting rankings back then. If they did, all of them would have been 5 stars. Saban landed all of them in state, locked it down. And guess what? Without Saban, those dudes weren't coming to LSU. They weren't. I've talked to Michael Clayton went to my high school. He was going to Florida State, guys. I mean, he had no interest in LSU. And I don't blame him. LSU back then was nothing, irrelevant. I mean, it wasn't what it is today. He convinced these guys that they were going to do something special. And boy, did they. They went on to win the first national championship in 45 years in 2003. The sleeping dragon that always was LSU had officially been awoken. LSU went on to go into its golden era, having the most success in the history of its program. It's won 3 national championships since then. The foundation of it all, keeping those Louisiana athletes home. Think about all of these national championships, all 3 of them. Think about Justin Vincent's big run, Louisiana boy. Think about Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Louisiana boys. Think about Glenn Dorsey in that 2007 team, Jacob Hester, all Louisiana talent leading you to a championship. In fact, the 3 national championships since LSU's first in 2003 is the most of any other program except for Nick Saban's Alabama. Now, that's where you get to the bad of Nick Saban, because Nick Saban did finish DiNardo's job in LSU. It should be smooth sailing after that. I mean, the program's built. You're keeping guys home. Then, after a 2-year stint with the Dolphins, Nick Saban takes a head coaching job for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the SEC West, right there with you. I don't know, 6.5 hours from campus, maybe. That meant you were going to have to recruit against him and play against him every single year. And what did he do but go on to have the most successful run of any coach ever at any school ever? No opposing head coach has done the damage to LSU football teams that Nick Saban has. Let me repeat this. It is very funny to lead something saying no coach has had a greater positive impact on the program, but then to say that same person, no opposing coach has done as much damage to LSU as any other opposing head coach. And he did it to LSU amidst its golden era. Despite winning 2 more national championships, playing for a 3rd one, winning the SEC multiple times, despite having top 5 recruiting classes left and right, LSU still was in Bama's shadow. Both off the field and on the field, LSU had to go head-to-head with the greatest of all time. That Vince Saban built was up nice and strong over that 20-year period. But of course, Saban left himself a little gate to get in from time to time. Now, LSU's landed the majority of top 10 athletes in the state overwhelmingly over that period. But since 2007, he grabbed 22 top-notch players out of the state. 22. Some of those players include Heisman winner Devonta Smith, Eddie Lacy, Landon Collins, Cam Robinson. These are players that would have helped LSU in a big way on the field. Big way. And of course, while LSU was having top 5 classes, Alabama won about 8 straight recruiting championships. And by the way, they won off the field, and guess what that led to? Winning on the field. For all the stars don't matter crowd out there, just look how Alabama's recruiting classes turned out, and then look how it turned out on the field. It was pretty darn good. LSU's only lost 57 games since Saban took the job in Alabama in 2007. That's pretty crazy. I was in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school when he took the job, maybe even freshman. I'm a grown man with a kid and everything now, guys. College degree, and I'm in my 30s, and we're talking about that. 13 of those 57 games were Alabama, and some of those losses were devastating to your program. Think about 2011. That's a whole extra national champion. You got embarrassed. It set your program back a lot at the hands of Nick Saban. 2012, you got your hearts broken. That 2012 team, guys, it only lost 2 games in the regular season. They would have won the SEC, had a chance to play for the SEC title and a national championship if it weren't for that. Think about 2015. You got the Heisman frontrunner by a mile, Leonard Fournette. He completely shuts down Fournette. Completely. And LSU's championship hopes are dashed, and the team just was emotionally killed, and they lose 3 straight. You can't convince me LSU still loses those 3 straight if Saban doesn't take care of business and kill them like that. I mean, the fact is LSU probably it is arguable that if Alabama and Nick Saban isn't doing their thing, LSU probably has a championship or 2 more than what they ended up getting. It's totally conceivable to feel that way. So as much as Nick Saban helped build the program up, it got it to a self-sufficient point. And from that point forward, Nick Saban did almost as much damage back to the program. Now, what's this mean for the future? I want y'all to just close your eyes and go back to, say, 2015, where Bama, or we'll go to 2018. How about that? Bama just beat you for the 8th straight time. Joe Oliva is your athletic director. Ed Ogeron is your coach. And, Ogeron went on to win a national championship, but most people knew that was an underwhelming hire, and it was the result of disarray, unorganized, non-big game thinking. Joe Oliva. LSU didn't have a head coach most people had faith in. LSU didn't have a athletic director people believed in, and LSU's program was in the shadow of Nick Saban. Fast forward to today. Nick Saban is retired, and let's full impact. You will not have to recruit against Nick Saban in your state. Nobody recruited Louisiana out like Nick Saban did, period. Nobody did. 22 players he snagged, some of the best players out of the state during that tenure. Nick Saban was right there. Imagine if you get half of those players helping you out. That's an extra top-notch dude every single year, just about. Imagine if you get them all. That's going to help LSU tremendously. LSU now has no Nick Saban under the foot of, and a competent head coach that people do believe, for his flaws, people do believe in Brian Kelly, and he has done a good job bringing consistency back to the program. And you see the work he's doing. We'll talk more about that later in the show. and an athletic director who is not afraid of anything. He is bold. He brought in Kim Mulkey. He brought in Jay Johnson. He brought in Brian Kelly. And today he brought in Bo Davis. Y'all, combine that with the fact that LSU has the number one player in the country committed to next season. And you got the number one running back and the number one receiver. This 2025 class, people are noticing, by the way, what this 2025 class. By the way, the 2026 class in the state of Louisiana, there's 3 5-stars already in state. The number one defensive lineman in the country, number 2 overall player, he noticed the Bo Davis hire, and he was really putting stuff out on Twitter. He gave a nice little emoji smirk reaction to it, whatever. He liked it. I promise you he did. Guys, the immediate future for LSU might be down a bit, but the future at LSU, this is huge. This is a big day for LSU. With that being said, I'm done monologuing now. I've got all that out there. Let's bring in from WAFB, John Eads, who's been nice enough to fill in for Zack Nagy co-hosting the show tonight. John, what was your reaction to seeing Nick Saban call it quits today?
Yeah, Preston, great job there. Pretty stunned. Today was just kind of a random Wednesday until, this kind of happens every day. Things just drop, things you don't expect to happen become news. LSU hires a defensive line coach. Somebody commits to a new school. Someone enters the draft, and then this just kind of trumps all of that, obviously. Insane. It's funny. My dad asked me the other day, actually, how many more years do you think Saban has in him? I was like, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe he takes one more run at a championship. Maybe he waits till Jalen Milroe is a senior and the team has a better chance to win a title. And then maybe he tries to go out, with a championship like a lot of coaches like to do. And then this happens. So unexpected. The guy. I mean, he just keeps on chugging along, right? He's in the press conferences. He's fired up. He's on the sideline. He's fired up. I actually got to go to the Rose Bowl with my family. I was blessed to have that opportunity. Did not think that would be his last game.
All right. I'm trying to remember.
That was the last game.
Is your family originally, are y'all from Michigan?
Yeah. So I grew up right outside Ann Arbor. So I grew up a Michigan fan in that whole area there.
Well, in the media, you're not really allowed to be. Did you grow up a Michigan fan? We'll put it like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm impartial. I'm a fan of college football.
Yeah.
I did grow up a Michigan fan, though. That's certainly my past. Try not to, put that out there too much, but that is my background. Right. But with that said, I love every school, every team, and just a big fan of college football. So
no, that's good for, your family, and a child, John Eads, somewhere is happy. I'm sure, even though you can't publicly do it, you have to separate yourself when you join the media. You have to separate the fan and, the reporter at a certain point. So trust me, I understand it on a spiritual level. I'm lucky enough to cover my alma mater, though. So you know how that goes. Man, what's wilder about this, not wilder, but what's an extra wild note on this Alabama news is the transfer portal now immediately opens for Alabama players for the next 30 days. It's going to be open season on that roster. You have to think they're going to need to move pretty fast. And if any of those guys enter the portal, you got to figure LSU is going to be all over it, right?
You got to think so. There's certainly an opportunity there. And as you were kind of alluding to, Coach Saban, that coaching staff has recruited Louisiana very well and, kind of taken some of that talent away over the years. So maybe they'd be interested in coming back. We know LSU has a lot of concerns at defensive line now with Smith declaring for the NFL draft, Wingo going pro, all those guys. So maybe they look to snatch 1 or 2 of those guys for the defensive line.
Yeah.
You got to think they have a plan, Preston, because the Rose Bowl was about a week ago. And you got to think he didn't just spring this upon them like, hey, I'm retiring. Good luck. He wants to leave the program in good standing. You got to think that the administration, the athletic department had a plan, had a short list, had these discussions with him weeks ago, I would think, about, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here are the guys that we think could replace you. Or maybe even Saban was like, hey, this is my plan. This is who I need you to replace me with, stuff like that, because you want to see the program continue to have success. If you're Alabama, of course, if you're an LSU fan, you don't want that to be the case. But you got to think they had something in place to move quickly to keep this thing rolling so they don't completely fall off the wagon.
You hope. I'm not sure Saban necessarily knew. I saw a Ross Dellinger report a couple hours ago. Nick Saban interviewed candidates for the DC replacement because Kevin Steele retired. He interviewed someone this morning. So you have to wonder if that was just lip service or maybe they had a plan and, they were just doing their due diligence there. I mean, it seems kind of out of nowhere, but I mean, isn't it kind of funny that there was chatter this season about if this could be Nick Saban's last hurrah, people probably making too much out of him showing up on the Pat McAfee show, showing, I guess not smoking a cigar on the field, but pretending to, it seemed kind of, it just seemed like he never was going to retire. Like this was an immortal person, didn't it? Right. And then people started noticing these things and put them out, but it's like, Saban retirement chat goes on every year. I don't know, man. It just seeing this tweet today, did it catch you as off guard as it caught me?
Yeah, it did. I think all the news we heard today, even Pete Carroll getting fired by the Seahawks, I was like, what?
On the same day.
Yeah, exactly. And they're both, up there in age. I was like, Pete Carroll's 72? Are you serious? He does not look like he's 72. He does not live his life like he's 72. And I guess Saban is about that age as well. And as you said, the guy has looked the exact same, it seems like, for the past decade. And, there's a discussion about college football and how it's so hard and stressful to be a coach right now. Like, I know they make millions of dollars. They're certainly earning every penny now. You got to recruit your own players, recruit next year's players, recruit from the transfer portal, NIL, coach your team.
I don't think he liked this new era.
Stuff. There's so many things you got to do and account for as a college football coach. And Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, he kind of retired. It seems like for many of those reasons, just too much for people at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's not like it was in 2007. Now, Saban is a guy that could handle this stuff. It seems like Alabama was doing really well with NIL. He's recruiting the transfer portal well, and they're still winning football games, obviously. He's keeping his program churning along. But I don't know what his reasons were exactly. That may have played a factor. He certainly accomplished enough for one lifetime, I think. So it was a surprise. All the news we heard today was a surprise.
I'm almost like checking Twitter crazily. Like, is Bill Belichick going to get fired in the middle of this show? Like, man, it's that kind of day. It is absolutely that kind of day. We got a super chat here. Let me throw this up here. Noah Melanson, no comment. And I think there's too many comments for me to go hunt down if you had a follow-up comment, but thank you for the super chat, Noah. I appreciate that. Trey Potan. Hey, Preston, good news for LSU. Go Tigers. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that's about as positive a news as you could get. I would argue Nick Saban retiring is every bit as good news as landing Bryce Underwood, the 5-star quarterback. Every bit as good news as hiring Bo Davis. Certainly will have a longer impact. I mean, he was there for 17 years. If he were to go another 10 or 5, the longevity of that. It's just, man, Saban's just such an unfair guy to have in your division. I mean, we're talking about easily the greatest coach of all time in college football history, and you got to recruit against him and play against him on the field. Who do you like for Saban for Bama to go off? Or you think they go back to Dabo and bring him home, or you think Dan Lanning somehow pulls the trigger on that?
I don't think that Dabo would be a good hire because he's made it pretty clear he doesn't like the transfer portal. He builds his program in God's name, image, and likeness, and he's very outspoken with the fans. I don't think he'd be the right guy. I saw something on Instagram by an account that I follow, a popular college football account, that Kirby Smart was on campus in the past few days.
Oh boy,
whether
I don't see that happening.
Specs, whatever, that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know if Georgia to Alabama would be an upgrade or a lateral move. Both programs are historically very prominent, and I think Georgia's recruited better than Alabama, at least lately. So that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, former assistant for Saban. But, there's the whole short list. There's Freeman at Notre Dame. There's the whole list of guys. James Franklin, who doesn't deserve to be on there, if you ask me. The popular guys.
Yeah, James Franklin. That's a bit of a joke, man. I think Kirby Smart's pretty cemented. 2 national championships. You got that thing rocking and rolling, just like Saban had Alabama rocking and rolling. I mean, you've built your own dynasty, and it's his alma mater. I don't see that. And not to mention, I think Georgia is a better job than Alabama. And what I mean by that is, you look at the recruiting base. There's three schools. LSU, Georgia, and Ohio State are 3 schools that just have incredible recruiting geography, where they have a ton of talent in their state and no one to really share it with. Like, you think Georgia Tech is plucking guys from Georgia? No, of course not.
Yeah.
You think Ohio is plucking guys from Ohio State? No. So it's a special setup. Where I'm going to next is, I wonder how. I think everybody's rolling with this assumption that Bama's the top job out there, period. Maybe I'm wrong. I really want you, as someone who, I don't want to say outsider's perspective, because you've obviously been in the market and doing your job here, but most of your time watching football has been outside of the LSU market. How much do you value this Alabama job, and is that the act you really want to follow? Do you want to follow Nick Saban's act at Alabama and be compared to him throughout your career? I mean, how coveted would a guy like Dan Lanning even want to leave Oregon for Alabama?
It's tough because he's got a good thing going up there at Oregon, but I think there's a massive difference between what you could accomplish there, what you could accomplish here, the support you're going to get. I know the Nike headquarters are nearby, not too far from campus, and you don't really have that legendary coach,
right?
Especially one that you're coming right in after, with those expectations breathing down your neck. Like, Oregon went 11-2, 10-3, whatever it was this year, and they're just fine with that. Obviously, they want to strive for more. And in the Big Ten, they're going to need to do more. Yeah, but he's not on the hot seat because of that. They're more than happy with that year after year.
Well, I mean, they only lost to Washington, and they lost to Washington twice. And Washington was in the national championship.
Exactly. Whether they belong there is another story. But I think it's a great job. I think it has to be one of the top 5 jobs in the country, not saying available, but overall, because yes, Alabama in-state may not have as good of a recruiting base as Georgia and Ohio and Florida, but they've shown year after year
not bad,
they've got no issues. What'd you say?
I'm saying, I just wanted to interject. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. I feel like a lot of people might, interpret that as we're saying it's a bad recruiting base.
Right.
But go on.
No, but I mean, when you think of the best, recruiting hotbeds, Texas, Florida, Georgia, et cetera, Alabama's certainly in there. But my point is, year after year, Saban, whoever, have gone into those states and stolen the top guys from there because it's a name brand, it's a blue blood, and people want to go there and play for championships, right? So I don't think it's that big of a problem that the state of Alabama may not churn out the best in-state talent. He's shown that he can do that. I think Alabama's brand speaks for itself. The challenge for the next coach will be, keeping that brand as good as it is and proving quickly that this program is not falling off, like what happened with Brian Harsin and Auburn, right? That did not work from the beginning. Things quickly went downhill there. He wasn't from the area, so he couldn't recruit very well. So, yeah, when you talk about expectations, the next coach coming in, that's a tough job. Those fans want wins. They want wins quickly. They want at least 10 wins. Even a 10-win season there is a disappointment, kind of like LSU fans in here. It's just high expectations. So you got to be able to recruit well, come in every day and do an elite job with everything, handle all those expectations, and win some football games, man.
Now, it's possible both these jobs are on the market. Which one do you think would be better, Michigan or Alabama?
I think Alabama. Michigan, you need to develop well. It's hard to recruit there because it's cold, it's far away. The offense they run, at least right now, it's very run heavy. So you're not going to get the Bryce Underwoods. You're not going to get the 5-star receivers. So I think it's a lot easier to come in and win quicker at Alabama because you can recruit better and because you're in a better conference. And, people always they want to play in the SEC. It's the SEC, it's the Big Ten.
Right.
Kids always want to play in the SEC.
Now, enough talk about Bama, Saban. I mean, probably went way longer than I normally would talking about any kind of coach like that. It's just, I mean, it's Nick Saban. I mean, it's the GOAT, undeniably. Got a super chat from Noah Melanson. LSU 2025 class. Now that Saban is gone, anybody think it could end up being the best in school history? That's a loaded question. I like to avoid hyperbolic statements. It's definitely the best since the recruiting services got rolled. The potential, I should say. I mean, number one receiver, number one running back, number one quarterback. I mean, it's unreal. It is an unreal class so far. It's got the foundation there. They're going to have to finish strong and lock down the state again, and probably try to appeal to a few guys, few national guys, get them to hop on the bandwagon to get that kind of title. But I mean, it's pretty big, right?
Yeah, and getting a 5-star quarterback in your class early can really work wonders. So getting Bryce Underwood from Michigan, I think that's really going to pay dividends moving forward. It already has before he even committed, because you already had the 5-star receiver from Texas, DeCorian Moore. You had Harlan Berry a couple days before that. This all started when Keelan Moses decided to go to LSU and not follow his other footsteps going to Alabama. You and I were both there. We heard him talk. The way he spoke, like, you hear these recruits all the time, like, yeah, I'm going to recruit. We're going to put on for the school. We're going to build an insane class. It's going to be great. And sometimes it goes that way. But more often than not, it's kind of just all talk, right? It's all smoke, and we don't actually see that come to fruition. But Keelan, every word he spoke to us that day, that he's going to go out there, get the best, bring him in, and get this thing going at LSU again, it's been gold standard, because Harlan Berry committed. Moore has stayed committed. They got Bryce Underwood over Michigan, over Alabama, over some of these blue blood programs. Everybody wanted that guy, and you got him to come down here from Michigan. So I think, not even talking about Saban, like, they could have had the number one class next year with Saban at Alabama, because they'd already done this stuff. They out-recruited Alabama to get Bryce Underwood. And now having those 3 5-stars, those are 3 pillars, not to mention Keelan Moses, who's the outspoken leader of this commitment class too, by the way, so far. They're going to go and get more guys for sure. They're going to see what they're building in this 25 class. They're going to see how they finished in the 24 class, getting Dominic McKinley. That was a huge win. And that momentum is just going to keep snowballing, I think.
I also want to thank you for the super chat, Noah Melanson. I appreciate that. I want to add another angle. Alabama's recruiting class and players could fall apart as well. I'm trying to think, the receiver, Ryan Williams, like within 5 minutes of Saban announcing his retirement, he decommitted. That's like the number one, like he's a beast, 5-star everything, the receiver, Ryan Williams. And I believe he is a 2024 kid, right? But he didn't sign. So, he's signing till February. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe the 30-day window, and if you know anything on this, the NCAA technicalities, feel free to chime in here. But I believe, I don't think anybody does. No. And it's all brand new, and it's not I believe the 2024 signees are locked in still, but I think the current players are open to the transfer portal with, obviously we'll get to play right away, but a lot of talent. Now, that brings me to my next point. LSU's future down the road looking great in terms of Blake Baker, great coach they hired for defensive coordinator. Bo Davis, a coach I didn't think they were going to land, by the way. I thought they barked up that tree a number of times and weren't getting there, but they did it. But the problem is the team next year, they got their work cut out for them, in my opinion. I mean, that's the only thing that doesn't look super bright about this program is that defense needs a total reworking. And if your offense is very good and not incredible like it was last year, last year was the 3rd best offense in SEC history. 3rd best. And you won 10 games. Man, if that offense is 80% is productive, 85% is productive, and your defense looks anything like it looked this year, you're in trouble. And We'll talk a little more about LSU's defensive tackles, and I do want your take on next year's team. I do have to get to some advertising real quick. I'm going to try and do less breaks tonight. I'm going to try to do 2 breaks, get out all the commercials, and hopefully that creates more time for show tonight. That's at least the hope behind that. So we're going to talk Alumni Hall real quick. All right, Tiger fans. When you want to show your LSU Tiger fried, Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. The best and largest selection for the whole family. Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, Peter Millar, Southern Tide hats, Yeti, gifts, accessories, and more. LSU students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day. And you can earn cash back with their Hall Pass Rewards program. Alumni Hall, located in Perkins Row, or anytime online at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where the Tiger fans shop. And guys, because Mike's off tonight, we got to talk about our friends Pride Roofing, guys. Let's hear from the guys over there, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Michael with Pride Roofing.
I'm Alex.
Were you affected by Hurricane Ida?
Insurance claim, no problem.
Are you concerned about the shortage of building materials?
We have what you need.
We're licensed residential and commercial contractors.
In Louisiana and Mississippi.
We install shingles, metal, and commercial roofing. From Baton Rouge to Slidell or Houma up to the North Shore.
We got you covered. Call Pride, 855-PRIDE-16.
Pride Roofing, the official roofer of TigerBait.com.
Of course, they do an excellent job there at Pride Roofing. Appreciate them supporting us over the years. And remember, if you get a new roof with Pride Roofing, they're going to pay for a year of your TigerBait subscription. So a good motive to get there. And of course, guys, our title sponsor this year is Celebrity Theaters with locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston. They are Louisiana's only locally owned theater, but because they're locally owned, you're guaranteed to see a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. And of course, the Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games. It's the largest in town. They've got a bar featuring wine, beer, and frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats, and of course, in the Baton Rouge location, they have their Dolby Atmos 3D sound system with the largest screen in Baton Rouge. Make sure to go check them out. All righty, and back to our regularly scheduled programming here. So, team next year. Bo Davis has his work cut out for him because right now, LSU has two returning defensive tackles, Jalen Lee and Jacobian Guillory. Yeah, your face really just says it all. That is bad. And you know where that started? So I talk about class composition probably more than anybody when it comes to recruiting. I think you should sign a starting 22 every year. You need a quarterback. You should field a football team with your class every single year. Last year in recruiting, they signed zero defensive tackles. You didn't get one. Now you got transfer portal guys, but portal guys are portal guys. A lot of them are one and dones, and that's what you got. So because there's no excuse, by the way, last year, it is inexcusable to not sign an entire position in a recruiting class. Inexcusable. But that's where you're at. Bo Davis got his work cut out for him, doesn't he?
He does. I got a couple things to say on this. First of all, watching Michigan, I just want to pull from what I know. The best teams every year in college football are strong on the offensive line, even better on the defensive line. Everything starts in the trenches. You can't have a bad defensive line and win the national championship. It just doesn't work. You can't turn opposing offenses one-dimensional by shutting down the run game or getting after them and, sacking them, affecting their passing game, whatever. So that's a massive problem. I think everything starts up front. And that's how Michigan got better. They were garbage in 2020. I wanted Harbaugh fired. What was the biggest difference they made? That was a cold take, by the way. They improved that defensive line. They got a guy who is basically Jalen Carter at D-tackle. And they got another guy who's 300-plus pounds, was a wrestler in high school, that is really good against the run and can generate interior pressure. That is why they were much better on defense. That is what you need to fix with this LSU defense. Did they stop the run this year? No. Did they consistently get pressure? No. which means their young secondary got feasted upon, and the linebackers weren't too good either. So that's the biggest concern right now. I did a whole segment on that today. The fact that with Mason Smith gone, that was a big surprise, by the way. The cupboard is so dry. Right now, Bo Davis is a chef, Preston, with no ingredients to work with. He's got all the pots. He's got all the pans. He's got no food to put in those pots and pans and work with. So they're in big trouble. Jacoby and Guillory's your one guy you have back who's played, actual minutes. Jalen Lee, who started at Florida but played in a handful of games last year and made 2 tackles. And then this guy, Preston Hickey, who played against Grambling State and Army. So
walk on.
Do you want to play defensive tackle? Because they got nobody.
I did play defensive tackle in high school. I wasn't any good.
Get out there.
I wasn't any good, but at this point, I mean, I might. I don't know. I'll have to see if I have some eligibility. I did graduate from LSU already, so I don't know. I didn't play a year of football, so I don't know how that works out. But I'm out of shape. I'm undersized, and I got a bum toe, so I don't know how that's going to work out for us. But anyways, good news is you landed Dominic McKinley a couple weeks ago, 5-star. Now, I don't think Dominic McKinley is the kind of guy who's like plug and play, ready to go. Did you ever get to go out and see him at Acadiana? Did he ever come
Didn't
to Baton
see him in
Rouge?
person,
Not in your
but
market.
I watched Catholic in the state championship, and to be honest with you, I wasn't there. I was just watching it on TV. I was looking for him, and I didn't really see him making any plays.
Not a guy who's showing up every down,
Right. With a 5-star, a top 6 defensive line prospect, you kind of expect to be like, oh, there he is. He just got a sack. But we didn't really have that moment. Now, Catholic had a great offense and great offensive line, so got to give them their flowers. But that's the one time I was kind of looking for him to show me something. Show me you're a 5-star. I didn't really see it. They put up 60 points on him.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not bashing him. I just think he's a player who's like a developmental. He's not a plug and play. And to find plug and play defensive tackles is rare. It's a position you just need some meat behind your butt. Now, you were talking about trenches. I just want to say that you're 100% correct on trenches. One side of the trenches for LSU is outstanding, the offensive side. They're in great shape. Has an opportunity to be the best offensive line, but the defensive line, man, they got some work to do. It was horrendous last year. We'll see if Bo and Brad Davis running the trenches, if they can get that turned around. And of course, they bring in a JUCO defensive tackle, Sean Washington, who, hasn't had a tremendous career thus far, been a little disappointing, but at this point, you might need some bodies to come in. I think you're really hoping one of those Alabama defensive tackles hits the portal and decides to come on over, my guy. Got a super chat from Big Cojones Cali. Shout out to the BFFs. Obviously you're not going to catch that reference there, John. And get well soon, Mike. Mike says BFF for like his female friends nonstop, and some of the viewers started to notice that. And now we all jokingly BFFs, like we just call that our followers, watchers, that kind of stuff. So yes, thank you. And I hope Mike does get well. I believe he's got a couple really nasty things. There's a lot of nasty things going around right now. Interesting comment here, because I actually saw a report talking about this earlier today. I'm gonna throw this up here. Fred Wright, thank you for the comment. Are we bringing in a defensive ends coach, an edge coach? My first reaction when I heard this was, well, then wouldn't that mean they would have brought in Bo Davis as defensive tackles coach? Because we see safeties and corners coach. That happens. But they already announced him as defensive line coach. So that just seemed unlikely. But I'm actually hearing, I read a buzz, I think it was on not Pro Football. Anyways, I read a report saying that they're talking about bringing in Kevin Peoples from Missouri to possibly coach jack linebackers and edge rushers, and then having a DB coach, possibly Corey Raymond, just be the defensive backs coach, because that spot would open up. If you had one DB coach instead of 2, you could have an extra coach come in. Are you familiar with Kevin Peoples at all?
I'm not, no, but that's an interesting point. I think what I would say on that is that you can only have so many assistant coaches. So you got to kind of get creative with who you want to use
Right.
where. And if I may, real quick, back to my D-line point, when I'm saying the D-line is weak right now, I think when we're both saying that, we're talking specifically about D-tackle because the ends were pretty solid this year, I would say. And there's plenty of those guys coming back. I thought the Jack linebacker spot was good. So if you're going to bring in a coach like Peoples, he's got to do more than just D ends because you can only have 10. So he's got to be hitting the edges, probably the outside linebackers, and that Jack position, I guess, under that umbrella.
Right. Yeah. It would be, it's kind of like, I don't really see how it fits, especially a guy. I mean, Bo Davis coached the entire defensive line at Texas and did an outstanding job. By the way, people at Texas I'm talking to, they were telling me basically he was the foundation of their turnaround. They said they were 5-7, brought him in, and he just turned them into some monsters up front. And they are really, really upset to see him go. I will say this: you talk about the limited coaching positions. Well, I mean, the spot is there. You can either choose to have an extra safeties corners coach, or you can add a defensive coach at whatever spot you want, really. So it'll be interesting. Kevin Peoples is a coach in Missouri. He's a longtime coach. He's a guy, I think they were going to go get him if Bo Davis told you no. In fact, I think at one point they were probably already moved on past Bo Davis. I think Bo Davis told him no last week, and there was just a change of heart. And I think that they're still working on it. That would be an interesting that would be a big name coaching staff if you were to bring in Peoples, Raymond, Davis, and Baker. I mean, those are some big names, much bigger than the names going out of LSU, right?
That's what you need. You got to bring in the better players. The assistant coaches matter too, though, because they're the ones that are doing the hands-on teaching with those guys at the specific position groups. They're the ones formulating those relationships. So not only do you have to build up the roster, you got to build up that coaching staff as well. And Davis has an excellent track record. He was with that 2003 national championship team in the strength and conditioning department. He developed an All-American this year, Tavondre Sweat at Texas, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Byron Murphy. They allowed like 80 yards per game on average run defense. I mean, I think LSU fans, we'd just be happy with them getting to like around 100, I think. So that would be a great hire. And anything else would just be gravy on top, I think. They've already done an excellent job, I think, getting big names to turn this thing around.
Someone asked here, in fact, same guy asked, well, so Blake Baker was the defensive coordinator and safeties coach at Missouri, but at LSU, he's the linebackers coach. Did they announce if he's coaching linebackers or safeties? I don't think they have yet, right?
I didn't see that specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me because I know a lot of coordinators will still coach a position group most of the time.
Well, I mean, he's definitely going to coach a position group.
Yeah.
He did such a good job coaching LSU's linebackers here. The job he did, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Damone Clark, the job he did with him and Micah Baskerville. I would, my guess is linebacker, but that probably is also a little contingent on what direction they decide to go. They got 2 defensive coaching spots to hire, right? So it's really contingent on who you decide to bring in for that. I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Corey Raymond coming back to coach the secondary, and maybe you want to bring in that defensive end, kind of edge rusher specific assistant to help out that D-line and help out Coach Davis, which would then free up Baker to coach the linebackers where he's seemingly comfortable, although he's a coordinator, so you think he's comfortable anywhere.
If the coaching staff looks anything like what I was just talking about, Peoples, Raymond, Baker, Bo Davis, be very excited. That's my overall take. And of course, LSU has another offensive coordinator to fill still. Even though they got Hankton and Sloan at the interim co-OCs, it seems like that's been really quiet. I mean, Brian Kelly really just, I think he really needed to focus on his defense first. Does it seem that way to you?
Oh, absolutely. And I thought that he was going to keep house, honestly, at least before the bowl game, because if you were going to fire him, the time to do it would have been, early December. So you could start going after that defensive coordinator while all the names are still out there and on the board. And people haven't made decisions on the NFL. People haven't made decisions on the transfer portal, or guys that have made decisions can still come back. So obviously then, though, after the bowl game, I mean, you can't bring him back. Wisconsin's offense was anemic this year, and you made him look like LSU, honestly.
92nd ranked passing offense. 92nd.
Yeah.
They threw for
it was terrible.
380 on you.
Yeah, they were in the 90s for scoring offense. Their All-American running back opted out of the game. Their quarterback hadn't had a 300-yard passing season all year, and he was throwing it left and right on you. But, that's kind of been the story all year. But offense, my boss, Jacques Doucet, did a sit-down with Coach Sloan, and one of the answers to a question he asked emphasized the cohesion of the coaching staff, and that's why they were so much better this year, because everybody was back from a coaching standpoint, from player standpoint, so they could just fine-tune a couple of things here and there, and obviously we saw what happened there. So I think what they're going to try to do is keep that lightning in the bottle, try to keep as many people in-house as they can on offense. So I think what we're going to see is either Hankton or Sloan be the OC. Maybe they'll work in tandem. Hankton's been the passing game coordinator while Denbrock was the OC. Sloan has worked closely with the quarterbacks, and clearly Bryce Underwood feels comfortable enough with the future of where this offense is headed and the coaching staff is headed that he committed to be the quarterback of the future at LSU. So I think cohesion is what led to the success this year. That's what they're going to try to keep going in the future as well.
Do you think they should just promote Sloan? You think that's what's for the best?
I think so. He's worked with Garrett Nussmeier for 3 years now. Yep. I thought the offense looked fine in the bowl game, good enough. They moved the ball. That was a good Wisconsin defense. We talk about how bad the offense was. Wisconsin has played good defense for years, and this season they were a top 30 scoring defense. So to come in with a guy that was starting his first career game with, Neighbors played a little bit, but not much. Thomas played a little bit, obviously caught the game-winning touchdown there. To come in and to still put up the numbers and flow and have everything work with Logan Diggs not even playing for pretty much the whole game either, I think it was good enough, and I think, again, back to the point I made before, they just want to keep things as much the same as possible.
I agree with you on this. I think Sloan is an incredibly bright young mind. The little I've talked to him, very sharp, very good mind. I think that it would keep things not rock the boat too much. I think, by the way, Cortez Hankton was there. There was some buzz about him going to Bama this year. I think that ship just sailed, didn't it? Yeah. It depends on who they hire, of course, but it seems like, if anybody's going to poach your coach, it'll be Saban. I mean, seems like getting a job with him is a really good way to getting a head coaching job there shortly afterward, or whatever promotion you're looking for. So I like Sloan to get promotion. I think the only reason they haven't announced it, they're focusing on defense and they're just doing their due diligence to make sure they bring in the best possible guy. This is an interesting question. I'm going to put this up here. And because we've both, had interviews, press conferences with Brian Kelly. Do y'all like Brian Kelly as your coach? He seems like a very unlikable guy. And the narrative definitely was before he took this job at LSU. He absolutely was a bit of a hothead, unlikable guy. We've all seen the red Brian Kelly meme at Notre Dame. And my interactions with Brian Kelly has been that he's, has a very dry sense of humor. He tries to be friendly and nice. Think about, remember the interaction with him and Leah Van? Or maybe you weren't even on the beat yet. I
remember that. Yeah.
Well, he just played that off so casually and fun. I think it really painted him in a good light in my book. I haven't gotten this unlikable notion from him. When I've asked him questions, I've noticed, he answers them genuinely, looks me in the eyes, and is very respectful overall. I think about things like the intern kid who tripped at the back of the press conference and he brought him up and shook his hand. I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion though. I mean, do you think that I think he's changed as a person in this transfer portal era? That's my opinion. What do you think? I don't want to put too many words in your mouth.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with him. I got a lot of friends that are Notre Dame fans and they don't seem to like him, but it's probably just because he left.
Yeah.
It didn't really give an explanation and, things like that. But me personally, the first time I met him was at LSU's event they had at the food bank before the season. And we spoke for a couple minutes, shook hands. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So from a personal standpoint, every time he answers my questions, he gives me a direct answer. and a good explanation. He doesn't seem to avoid anything. So I've got no gripes with him personally. Of course, he gets heated after losses. Understandable, especially after you give up 55 points to Ole Miss and 42 to Bama and 45 to Florida State. I mean, I would be pretty mad as a head coach too. So I think he's a great coach. He's proven that he can consistently win. He's had now 7 straight 10-win seasons between Notre Dame and LSU.
That's wild to me,
brings
by
in
the
the
way.
coaches. It's consistency. He recruits
Third
well.
longest streak in college football.
Right. That's just incredible right there. What he hasn't, I guess, done yet is proven that he can win that big one. He's gotten to the playoffs before at Notre Dame, but they haven't necessarily played well once they've gotten there. But he's shown in flashes he can do that. They beat Alabama 2 years ago on that 2-point conversion. Like, he'll get the occasional big win. Now it's just a question of, can he put it all together? And that's kind of why he wanted to come here, because at LSU, there's no restrictions. Great in-state recruiting talent base. Plenty of money to pay assistants. National brand. So anything that he may have not had at Notre Dame, he has here. Now we just want to see if he can put it all together, if he's that guy.
I'll tell you what, his job just got a hell of a lot easier. A hell of a lot easier not having to compete with Bama. They still have to compete with Bama, but not having to compete with Nick Saban every year. Boy, his assignment just got a lot easier. All right, we're going to do a quick little ad segment, but I'm going to make him mini real quick, and we'll be right back in just a bit. Remember, we're going to try to roll through these so we get more show tonight. Guys, artist Jordan Spector has been kind enough to sponsor our show this year. You see the Joe Burrow artwork behind me, guys. He's followed this up with awesome pieces like the Dylan Cruz 7 piece that I've got right here. He's got Coach O and Joe Burrow winning the championship. Guys, you can check out all of the Bayou collection online at spectorsportsart.com/the Bayou. You see the handle, the URL behind me. You see it in the description of the video. Guys, the art he creates is guaranteed to catch the eye of any Tiger fan. And the details are really going to be what holds your attention. You know, think about the note on the floor of the Joe Burrow piece at the Dylan Cruz. He's got the puzzle piece on the sleeve representing his Cruz. He really tells a story with his artwork. So you can see the Joe Burrow piece behind me. He's followed it up with actual 5 incredible Louisiana pieces, including Drew Brees the Saint, a Tiger Stadium overview. He's got a Dylan Cruz piece, a Tommy Tanks piece you see there. And we've got, of course, the Joe Burrow Coach O at the championship. Guys, best part about all this artwork, the athletes themselves love this so much and are hanging this up. That Joe Burrow piece, that's in Joe Burrow's parents' living room right now. Okay, the Dylan Cruz piece, Dylan brought the original. It's in his man cave, guys. Always thought that's the coolest part. Make sure to check out the link in the description of this video and use the code TigerBait10 for 10% off your first set order purchase. You're not going to be disappointed, guys. Artwork is available in quality print or canvases of any size to fit any room or any budget. Artwork is all straight from box to your wall. And guys, of course, we got to thank our title sponsor, Celebrity Theaters. Guys, they have weekly promotions going on all week to help you save going to the movies. Monday is Senior Savings Night, where you get $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday, Bargain Tuesday, where they get discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Wednesday is College Night, where admission for college students after 5 p.m. is $5. And they have half off arcades all day long. Thursday at the Baton Rouge location is Thirsty Thursday, where you have discounted bar items. And guys, next time you have a private event for your work or school, guys, they've got 8 to 10 private auditoriums. So whether you're interested in hosting the birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, arcade party, they've got the perfect facility to fit your needs. They're proud to offer birthday party packages for children of all ages. Let them handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to cleanup. They've got you covered, guys. For more information or book your party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or send them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. And guys, last spot here, we got to talk about our friends at Koala Insulation. I'm going to pull this up real quick here. Guys, Koala Insulation is your home partners. I just saw the work they did at Mike Scarborough's house the other day. Outstanding work. They built their outdoor patio, boxed it completely in, looked great, guys. The team at Koala Insulation of Baton Rouge, they're your residential commercial energy efficiency experts. The approach is Koala provides not only help reduce your energy bill, but maintain a more comfortable living environment. They can also help reduce airborne energy allergens, water condensation issues, wear and tear on your HVAC system, and even lengthen the life of your roof shingles. The Koala team provides homeowners doctors' with a doctor's diagnosis of your home's energy efficiency standpoint. They can offer several strategies to help you stay more comfortable and save money on all of your energy bills all year long. Koala has the capacity to tackle large spray foam projects for new home construction, and while being available to help everyday homeowners get some relief in South Louisiana's extreme weather. As an added bonus, most of Koala's projects qualify for federal income tax credits. Give Koala a call today at 225-457-1001 to schedule your free energy efficiency assessment. Tell them you heard it on TigerBait.com for 7% off your first project. All righty, and back to the action with John Eads at WAFB. All right, John, if I put gun to your head and asked you, how many games do you see LSU winning next year? What's your answer to that? It's a tough schedule, man. Rough schedule.
Season just ended.
I know. Well, and there's a lot of work
right
to be done,
it.
but I don't know if I'll have you back before then. We'll see.
I hope so. Well, okay. So it's early January. And based on what we know right now, things can change. That defensive line is a project. The linebackers, probably going to be a little bit of a project. I know Greg Penn's back, but you got a little bit of youth at the other spot. Secondary, a lot of questions. What I see happening is the offense regressing a little bit. I mean, obviously, it was the number one offense in the country. I mean, it's going to be tough to replicate. And the defense has to get a little bit better, right? I mean, it cannot be much worse. We're right there with Akron, I think, this year in a lot of defensive stats. So it can't get much worse. I think right now, I think this team will find a way to get 10 wins again next year. I think 9 in the regular season again, get the 10th in the bowl game.
That's not bad. That would be an exemplary season, in my opinion. Exemplary. I'm coming closer to it. When the season ended, and Matt House was still your defensive coordinator, and you didn't know if he was getting fired or not, I was really at like 7-5. I'm getting closer and closer to more than that. Obviously, I have to see where they end up at defensive tackle and all that good stuff. But right now, I think I'm at 8-4 with a good chance at a bowl win. I think, I think 8-4 will get a lot of things. You know, you're not going to lose a recruiting class or anything over that. 7-5, you start to get to the territory of, does Bryce Underwood still come? I have a sneaky feeling, based on the body of work I've seen from BK over the last, I mean, my God, hey, they played the bowl game 10 days ago. Does that ever just blow your mind?
It seems like it was like months ago. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Right. I know. It just seems like a million years ago, because since then you've landed the number one recruit. You've got, I think, no, it was the night before you got Dominic McKinley. It was 11:30 at
New Year's Day, right as the ball dropped.
How wild is that, man? I swear to God, recruits, like, they want to test to see if us recruiting guys actually sleep or not. Like, one's going to do it at like 3 a.m. one day. I'm convinced it's happening one day that they'll make a commitment. Anyways, I'm convinced that with the work that Brian Kelly's doing, I think that's going to continue, and I think they're going to bring in some portal players. I think Bo Davis is going to do some work. I think 8 or 9 wins is definitely on the table for next year. We'll definitely see, guys. This has been an outstanding show tonight. I appreciate all y'all for joining. This is news that us and LSU fan in the country have been waiting for 17 years for the news that Nick Saban retires and a Grand Slam hire in Bo Davis. I'll be back next week. I believe I'll be back on my normally scheduled Monday nights. I hope Zack Nagy's get down with something nasty, strep throat or something like that. So hopefully Zack will be back with me next week. We hadn't had a Monday show in a while. National Championship, Christmas. Then it was the bowl game was on a Monday. So it's been a while. So we'll be back to then. We only have our last show will be February 13th this year before we shut it down, the football show. Mike and Buddy will get y'all for this off season, but that'll be my last football show of the year. It'll be right after the February signing day, which hopefully there's some news. Terry Bussey's on the table still. So if y'all enjoyed the show tonight, make sure to smash that like button for me. If you enjoyed the Nick Saban, you're not going to have to play against him every year. Smash that like button as well. And of course, guys, I appreciate John Eads of WAFB for joining me today. I gave him a little bit of short notice. Zack Nagy let me know he was sick around maybe 3:00 today. So I think right a little bit after that, I called him in. So I appreciate you for being flexible and making that happen. John, it seems like you're doing a lot at WAFB. You got like your own little segment podcast, and you're live on air, and your high school sidelines. Why don't you tell the people where they can keep up with your work?
For sure. And yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we can make it work. Schedule was a little favorable for us tonight. So obviously do my work for WAFB with, basketball and football and all that stuff. So I post a lot on social media. You could follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you consider it, at John Eads TV. It's on the screen there. And then I do a show here called Game Time, and it's pretty much all LSU and Saints, local sports focused. And I pump content out there multiple times a week. It's on our YouTube page, WAFB. It's also online at this link here. You could see it there.
It's WAFB.com/game time, right?
Yes, that's correct. So, we talk about, like today, we talked about the defensive line crisis. They got a big problem on their hands, just things like that. Who should be the next OC? Big picture topics and everything, basketball, football. So you can check me out there too.
John, I appreciate you for coming on tonight. You have a great night. And guys, thank y'all for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and y'all have a great night. I know I'll be sleeping very well knowing that Saban is off to a happy retirement, and LSU pulled a grand slam defensive line coach, not a home run hire, a grand slam in bringing in Bo Davis. Y'all have an excellent evening.